All right, now for our final component for maintaining distance. It is the idea of continuous motion. If you have studied boxing, MMA, wrestling, judo, it is commonly reinforced that we need to always be moving. If you're in judo and you're looking to establish grips, you don't walk in frozen, wait, and then just reach. You're constantly moving, looking for openings. A boxer doesn't just freeze on the spot and wait for a punch and then respond. They're always moving in predictive patterns. Sometimes they move in, this is the correct direction, if you will, moving away from the punch. Sometimes they move into it accidentally, but they continue moving, thereby dissipating the incoming force and placing themselves in a better position to not be hit by subsequent shots. Continuous motion is essential. As Newton established long ago, objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest. And so if we're frozen, and we're in a very static pattern, all sorts of negative things happen. Our opponent, however subtle and polite they may seem at the time, can time us, gauge distance, establish a plan, and hit us much more easily by surprise. But if I'm continuously moving on the spot, my hands and my body are moving, it's hard for them to establish clear parameters as to where I'll be. Secondly, by continuously moving, I am dissipating nervous energy. I'm keeping myself more functional. I'm keeping myself ready and responsive if I have to hit or I have to move in. One of the worst things in the world, and it's something I experienced as a young doorman many times, is to freeze and to start going into this negative internal dialogue. And then you invariably get hit, and if you survive that shot, it takes you a while to recover and regroup. But if I'm continuously moving, I can be loading that short-term memory saying, if this happens, I'm going to go all the way out. Or if this happens, I'm going all the way in. But I have an either-or scenario. I'm going to talk, I'm going to de-escalate, I'm going to stay there, I'm going to be always moving, and then the minute something happens, I'll go to my B plan. My A plan is to de-escalate, my B plan is to respond. Is it create distance? Is it go in? As you wish, right? Depending on the circumstance. Continuous motion occurs fundamentally at two levels. The first is the shifting of our weight, moving of our feet. This is what we call churning. When we churn, we want to still fundamentally always be front loaded. So I don't want to go from front weight to back weight, right? Like you might sometimes in boxing do a little pedal step, but I'm not doing this. I might be here, sometimes in a protracted encounter, you might temporarily put your weight on the back heel if you had distance. It's kind of like shaking off the fatigue. But most of the time, I'm going to be very forward or slightly less forward and shifting. In doing this, by churning, I can zone, moving away from power more easily. And this is essential. And the second way that I'm going to be moving is by using my hands. My hands should always be gesturing. They should always be moving, talking, establishing some kind of rapport, bringing that funnel and that focus to me, directing attention away or bringing it back. So my hands are always moving. They're not just frozen. On occasion, we'll see shortly, we may need to punctuate and ask somebody to stay back, but the majority of the time we're talking. And this is what we refer to as the casual blur. The casual blur is like a hypnotic, functionalized way of moving our fence. Oftentimes I see people fencing like this. In law enforcement, they'll teach a low profile, ready, mid-profile, patrol, and high-profile position. And you see officers moving through these cardinal points like, I'm here, oh, he's getting closer. Okay, I'm going to relax, oh, he's close. And it's fine, but it becomes very predictable. I want to keep it conversational. I want to keep it natural and justified as I move my hands. If I have people coming in, it allows me to funnel them. Hey guys, do me a favor, just come on over here so I can see all you guys. A bit dark back there, thanks very much. And I'll talk and corral you. I'll get you down into one space. But I'm always moving. And again, it's going to help me communicate. It's going to help justify my use of force. It's going to clearly establish what I want and where I'm at. All those nonverbal cues are going to make it more likely that your verbal directions, your communication make it through. But they're also always keeping you tactically as ready and responsive as possible. So always be in motion. Train it all the time when you're talking. I will, again, going back to this idea of transference and counter-transference, I often see officers becoming complacent, rear weighting, grabbing their vests, letting somebody get in because they're so used to it, they're so tired by it, they're so familiar, and then somebody's all erratic in front of them, yelling and screaming, and they're just kind of leaning there like this. And they're loading their short-term memory, thinking of going in or not going in, but they're fundamentally frozen. And if they do get sucker punched, they're going to be a little bit more delayed, a little bit slower. So as casual as you want to make it, guys, still load forward. Still keep your fence up, even if it's like this, even if it's one hand, and keep it moving. Keep it talking, keep it gesturing, keep these hands communicating. So continuous motion is something, guys, you need to train in your everyday life. You need to train it all the time in your scenario training. And even if you're doing sportive martial art, you're doing BJJ, wrestling, judo, boxing, always be moving, always have slight bits of motion no matter where you are. Keep yourself always moving, always responsive, no matter how soft and casual it may be. This is the only way to train it as a very natural, confident, reflexive state.